Welcome to the Reawakening podcast, where we sit down and talk about everyday life challenges that are on all of our minds. I'm Kendall Evans, creator of the Bohemian Tarot Girl and co-owner of the Wild Reawakening Experiences. I'll give you my spiritual insights alongside my co-host, comedian Emily Zunker from the Life of Emily Zunker video blog, who adds her own funny flair to the mix. We will be joined by special guests to add their own life story and knowledge into the mix. Let's face it, we all need a little girl talk to grow. Make sure you stay to the end of each episode as I break down some key points and journal prompts if you want to work on reflecting and creating change in your own life. Remember that this podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and make sure to like and follow us at the Reawakening Podcast for more episodes. Hey everyone, my name is Kendall Evans. I am with Bohemian Tarot Girl, and we are doing this wonderful podcast called the Reawakening Podcast. My co-host here is Emily. Emily, you want to give a shout out to yourself?
Hello, my name is Emily. This is Squiddy here. He's the other co-host of the show. I'm just here to talk about my terrible dating life and my cats, because that's what I have going for me.
I love Emily. Emily is not into the spiritual stuff. Oh my gosh, your other one is coming right now.
I know. This is Claymore. She wants to be a part of the show too.
She's like, yes, I'm on camera, bitches.
Pretty much.
Emily is here for hopefully a little comic relief to me. She's not into the spiritual stuff, so that's kind of my realm. But I'm hoping she's gonna be here to add some crazy stories and kind of help people get connected with what we're talking about. So today is our first episode. Hopefully, we're going to be adding in some interactions with some other leaders in the spiritual community to give their views on different topics. So if there's a topic that you guys are really interested in, there's going to be a link below for a form. Submit your topic. If you are part of the spiritual community and want to be on our show, there's also another link. Just fill that out and send it along to us, and maybe we'll talk about your topic. Today, something that's been brought up to me so much lately has been the fact that, people can be a little bit wearing on us. And so how do you love people in your life, but really set your own boundaries and tell them to basically, F off, right? It's such a hard thing that, especially as women, because we want to sit there and communicate and talk and do all that sort of thing. So, I mean, Emily, I know you've experienced this. How do you feel?
Well, I 100% agree. It's like, it took me a really long time to find boundaries, especially with dating, because growing up, I was never taught boundaries. It was you do what you're told. That is it. You don't set boundaries for yourself and everything. And I think when I kind of started dating and getting back into that, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do everything that a man wants. And I'm not going to say no because I have to please him. But honestly, at the end of the day, it goes down to, fuck you. This is about me.
Yeah.
I'm here to find my soulmate. And if you don't like that, then there's the door.
Yeah.
So.
No, I totally agree. It's interesting. One of my top rules is that, your first thing that you have to worry about is really yourself, and that you're being true to yourself, and you're not, bending your will and your wants and your desires, just to support or, pacify somebody else, that you are really being true to yourself. And so, as women, but we do that. We kind of have this weird, I'm a little bit older than you, obviously. You're quite young, and I'm approaching 40. So, I was raised in a slightly different time, but do you feel like, I felt like a lot of, especially now I've come to a different realization, obviously, I have my boundaries. I really feel that, whatever, if it's true to myself, and that's the only thing that matters. And I'm not going to kind of like cater to men per se, but I still have that nurturing quality. And the way I was raised was like, your value was really assigned to being like a good mother, a homemaker, girlfriend, wife, that sort of thing. And so you were kind of asked to give up certain aspects of yourself to like cater to that. Do you feel like that's still a thing with the younger culture, or how do you feel about that?
So, I know we've talked about this in the past, is that, it's hands down, I'm an old soul. Like I know you can agree with that. And, and growing up, I was raised on a farm. And so it's like women were farm wives. You sat down, you took care of the farm, you took care of the books, and you popped out babies. That's and so that's what it was installed in my brain of, okay, that's what your life's going to be like. When I was 19, I got married, thinking, okay, this is my purpose. I'm going to be a wife. Well, then shit hit the fan, and I was like, oh shit, I'm 19. What am I doing? I'm not ready to be someone's wife. So then I just I got a divorce, blah, blah, blah. Shit happens. Okay.
Totally understand. Overall, good for you for getting out.
But like, it was hard. And like, and I know, a lot of older women that have been divorced and all this stuff, and they're trying to get back into dating. And I'm a hands-on believer that dating after divorce is hard, because now you have this stereotype and all this stuff, and it's hard. And I think that's the easiest way to describe it. And like, being such an old soul, all these younger men, the cute, the hip, the fit, whatever you want to, they don't do it for me. And so I think, but then I find myself being attracted to like older men, and I go off, and then they're like, oh, you just want to be my sugar baby. And it becomes this like sexual thing in this fantasy, and I'm like, no, I just want someone who has their shit together. And I don't know, maybe that's like a rabbit hole, but that's just the way I'm feeling, is that the older your soul is, being so young, the harder it is to date, because you want a certain thing. You want someone who wants to settle down, and but
they've also got to,
I don't know,
meet all of your needs. I mean, that's kind of interesting. Like, when I was with my partner that I was there for 12 years, I see your cat breaking into the closet.
Yeah, he's breaking into the closet. He doesn't like being in the closet, so he's a very straight cat.
He's so cute. I love Squid. Being with a person, I was with someone for about 12 years, and he, super struggled with communication. And, it was kind of like a subject that really we couldn't approach, because he just kind of, if I approached something negative that he didn't want to talk about, then he kind of shut down, and there was no communication. Right. And so, I didn't really have boundaries at that time, because I just kind of accepted it and went along with it. The me now, when I'm like out there dating people, I'm like, if you're not willing to communicate and, try to kind of work with me in that fashion, that's a boundary that I have, and I'm not gonna like bend to that. Like, there's no way. Do you have something that you specifically, like one of your top boundaries? I think for me, that's one of them, is like, you have to be able to communicate 100%. I cannot handle being with somebody that can't express themselves or have just even a conversation, even if we have different opinions on a subject, because ultimately we're allowed to have different opinions. I totally appreciate having both sides of the story, but you have to be able to talk and come together and express that, and be okay that someone might have that different viewpoint from you, versus just like not having the conversation at all.
I think for me, boundaries, don't touch me when I'm in the kitchen cooking. Okay. let me have the time in the kitchen to cook. um no, I agree with you, Kendall, on the communicating. And for me, in your experience, he couldn't communicate, but when I was married, I had the hard time communicating,
Mm-hmm.
because growing up, it goes back to that, you just did what you were told. You didn't express how you were feeling,
Truth.
and you didn't express any of that. And I just and so my what I would do is that I would shut down. And
Mm-hmm.
I know my ex got really tired of that, but he was in this spot that he loved me so much that he was willing to stay even though we both were so unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think for me now is that communication and honesty. It's like I I communicate with me how you're feeling, and I'm going to do my best to put it into words how I'm feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And like honesty is, if you're not feeling me anymore, or you're not, you know, you don't agree with something I'm doing, then tell me.
Yeah.
Don't beat around the bush. Like, and I think that's a big thing with today's dating, is that, I actually was in a situationship a couple weeks ago, and this
Uh-huh.
man, we had discussed, what we were looking for, and at that time I was like, I think I'm ready for a relationship. I think so. I'm going to give it a shot.
Yep.
And he told me that he wanted a relationship, and I said, "Okay, let's do it." So we're laying there in bed one night, we're just talking, and I asked him again. I said, "So what are you looking for?" And he goes, "Well, what are you looking for?" And I said, "Well, I thought we were dating." And he looks at me, or he doesn't look at me, but he goes, "Well, I thought we were just friends with benefits."
And you're like,
And I when I tell you, I felt my heart sink to my butt.
mm-hmm.
I was like, what? Like, and I was just going crazy, and I didn't know what to think. And I think that goes back to the fact of, why didn't you communicate with me earlier? And why are you just now being honest? This man had met all my friends, some of my family,
Mm-hmm.
my coworkers,
Yeah.
like, and it was just, that hurt. And I think that goes back to that communication, honesty. And when I told him that I had to put up boundaries and walls against him, he didn't like that. And he straight up said, "Emily, I will leave you alone now." Okay, bye.
Mm-hmm. Well, but that's good that you were able to express that though, and know like you're not willing. I mean, no, if that's what you want, if that's what you're looking for is for a relationship, and you've put that out there, and that's how you've been going moving forward with your relationship, and then all of a sudden they changed the narrative on you, they changed the story. And,
Mm-hmm.
and which sounds like is what happened, that, you know, that's great that you were actually able to say, I'm not okay with you changing the story. That's not what I
Mm-hmm.
want. And, a lot of people struggle with that. I struggle with that. And I'm way older than you, putting up those boundaries. People, the dating world is so hard now. And
Mm-hmm.
I've talked about this with you before. Like, we're expected basically to go out and date people on these apps. And the issue becomes is that, they can just keep swiping, right? There's always somebody potentially better that they can run into. Whereas when I dated when I was younger, you would meet someone, and if you had a connection with them, you pursued the connection because you would have to find somebody, another person in person. And so you had less of a
Right.
chance, right? Now it's all this instant like gratification, and people just kind of, don't want, to have to make those commitments. And I really struggle with that. And so I love that you were able to put up your, put forth what you want and really stick true to it instead of just kind of caving and being like, okay, we can be friends with benefits.
But I think too, comes back to that. If you're not happy with what's going on, change it.
100%.
And that's kind of how I've been living my life in these last 2 years since my divorce, is because I divorced him because I wasn't happy.
Mm-hmm.
So I changed it. I wasn't happy living on my own. So
Mm-hmm.
I moved back in with my parents, and I went back to school. I changed my life.
Yeah.
And I think that's just the biggest thing. It's like, I'm not happy being in Spokane, so I'm gonna go to Kirkland for the weekend.
Yep.
And I think that's just kind of what it comes down to. If you're not happy, change it.
Yep. And that really comes down to, though, knowing yourself. And so, when I have people approach me, with this kind of question, and they're, asking me how can I be with somebody and have, a loving relationship with someone and be able to tell them when they're crossing my boundaries and telling me things that, like you might be, a different story than that you had originally understood, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's always multiple sides to the story, right? It might be that they thought they told you something else and you read into the situation. I totally understand and accept that. But a lot of times people are just not truthful with on both sides, like on what they want and then what are your boundaries to cross. And so,
Right.
yeah.
Like, no, you hit the nail on the head, and it's just, you have to be open and you have to be honest. And I think that's one thing about dating, is that if you're not willing to be open and honest about what you want right off from the bat, then why are you dating?
Yeah.
Why are you wasting my time? Why are you wasting your time?
Mm-hmm.
That is one thing we will never get back in this life, is time.
Yep.
So therefore, quit being an asshole and just tell me what the fuck you want.
100%. Yeah, that should be on our dating profile. Mm-hmm.
So
I love that. Do you think, though, I mean, I kind of go back and forth, like, do people just not know what they want? How do you feel about that? Like, do you think that people
I'll
are,
tell you what men think with. They think with this head. They
well,
don't think with this
duh.
one.
Well, duh.
And so they want instant gratification. They want right then and there. They just want a quick fuck.
Yeah.
That is it. They don't want to sit down. They don't want to invest the time because their career is too important, or they don't have the time, or I live with mom's basement. Oh, my girlfriend wouldn't approve of that. But I swear I've heard it all.
Yeah.
So
You have.
they just so
I love your stories. I love your dating stories. And I'm like, it's so fascinating because my dating life is a little bit different. I try to avoid obviously the apps. Like occasionally I will do it, but I try to meet people in person because that's my preference.
yeah.
But yeah, the stories you tell me, I'm like, damn, people are real weird and real ballsy and
Yeah.
I
You
just
know, I remember once I was chit chatting with this guy and I thought he was really cute. And this is when I like, before I lacked boundaries, back in that time. And I asked him, I said, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "Ghosting." And I said, "What?" And he goes, and then he blocked me.
are you serious?
Yeah.
That is horrible.
And I was like, if I had the balls to do that to someone, I would. Because
Mhm.
it's like, don't get me wrong. I know you've experienced it. I know I've experienced it. There's some fucking weirdos out there
Oh,
that are like,
100% there are. Yeah.
you'll be like chatting with them. They'll be like, send me pictures of your feet with like socks halfway on, halfway off. And you're just like, oh my God, get out of here. And you're just like, no. And then it's like that time I think back to I should be like, I'm ghosting you. But then I get too nervous. And so I just like block them. I
Hey,
don't,
that's a good, that works. Like if that is, you don't feel like you can be like F off kind of thing, or, say something back and like, one, I mean, with people dating on these apps, let's face it, like if you are weird and you send me a picture of you know,
an eggplant.
an eggplant, thank you. I was looking for the word. An eggplant, I'm just gonna like block you and just be done with you. Like at no point do I ever want to talk to a guy that's like shooting off pictures of an eggplant to me.
Yeah.
But
Because
they do
it's
it.
like, how many other girls have you sent that to?
Yeah, because well, and I think that's what they do. They just like send it off and they're like, maybe one in like 45 will respond to it and give them what they want there. But that's not okay. And
Oh, I mean, what am I supposed to reply with? Nice shrimp? Like,
mm-hmm.
like, you say, you want some cocktail sauce with that? Like,
See, we just need to tell men like, no, no, thank
it's
you.
funny.
Hard
Yesterday,
pass.
I was driving home and I posted a picture on my story and like I had like this much of my chest showing, you know, like you
Mhm.
could see just a tiny bit. And this man slides up on my story and he goes, "Let me see him." And I said, and I didn't reply because I was driving right away. And
Yeah.
he said, "All right, go ahead, be a little bitch." And I was like, "Excuse me?" And he goes, "Let me see a tit." And I was like, no. I'm in like, or what, oh no, what did I say? I said, small dick energy. And he replies, he goes, "No, it's actually quite big and girthy. You act like you have such a good pussy." And I said, "Well, I'm also not the one begging for a titty pic." And he goes, "Begging?" I said, "Let me see him." And I was like, and then he goes, "You're just a bitch ass hoe." And I was like, okay, first off, I don't have time for this. And so I just blocked him. And then I was thinking to myself, like, he probably thought he won. Because
Mm-hmm.
that's another thing with today is that either everyone thinks there has to be a winner and there has to be a loser.
Yeah.
And I think it goes into that. He probably was like, "Oh, I told her, I called her out,"
Yeah.
you know, and you're like, no, you're nasty. And, you know, I would say some other very mean things, but I don't want to offend anybody.
No, but that's like totally, I find like totally normal. And, we can talk from the spiritual side, like, people will say, like, oh, you're in a lower vibration and you're attracting these kind of men. But the problem is that ultimately you're on social media. People are finding you because you're on social media and they just kind of have these like, you know, shitty comments to add to your life, and there's no real reason to it. And so I think, for them, I mean, obviously you have a comedy bit that you do with
Mm-hmm.
some of these, dumbass, responses to you. But for me, I just go ahead and block them. I'm, talking to some of the people that I've talked to recently, it's, they really struggle with the fact that these people, they're engaged with them, they're kind of liking the attention, but then they kind of switch this narrative that it's not something that they really want or buy into, but then we kind of cater to them. I know
Mm-hmm.
I've done that in the past. Obviously it's not something that I do now, and I just go, and that's my advice, is just go automatically to the block, get rid of you, you're not worth my time. um
Right. Well, and I think too, it's like there's a lot of women out there, and I'm not being cocky when I say this, but it's like I've come a long ways, and
mm,
I'm a strong, independent woman, and you are too. And so I think, you know, but there are some women out there that do lack a lot of boundaries,
yeah.
and they will do whatever it takes. If a man is giving them attention, you know, they're going to take it, whether it's positive attention or negative attention, because that's still attention, and they can still thrive off of that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a quote that I say a lot is to, you know, I have a friend that her friend was recently, you know, her boyfriend essentially beat the shit out of her.
Mm-hmm.
And there's all of this stuff, and there was drugs and alcohol and money, and there's all of this stuff. And my friend would come and vent to me about it, and I said, "You know why she does that?" And she'd be like, "Why?" And I said, "Because that's attention." And she goes, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "She thrives off of that. She thrives off of everything going wrong in her life. It's a circle. She was raised with negative attention, so therefore she's going to continue to get that negative attention until she is satisfied."
Or
And
she breaks the
it
cycle.
breaks my, what was that?
Or if she breaks a cycle. I mean, you do have to realize that some of the things that you're doing in your life bring about negative reaction. It's really a very
Mm-hmm.
toxic cycle. And it's not something I don't. it's really hard because I do think that people in general, in order to change and make a change in your life, you really have to come in and step up to the game. You can't,
Mm-hmm.
you can't play victim and try to grow. It's really hard to be in a victim mindset and actually move forward with your life and grow and become the person that you want to be. I
Right.
spend a lot of time working with people about really looking at their past behaviors, how they can move forward, the person that they want to be. And so, you know, that is really the essence of it. You can't have, you know, if you are in that negative place, then it's really hard to set boundaries because you don't have that ability. You're kind of in
Yes.
that loop, like you were talking about, and you need to step out and break it. So that would be my advice to anyone that's listening to that, that's finding themselves really think about, am I seeing repeating patterns in my life? Am I, you know, dating the same type of man and I'm getting the same type of response every time? And if you are, then you can kind of sit back and you can do some work. You know, I realize that this is a podcast, but it'll also be posted on our YouTube channel. On the YouTube channel, I do some guided meditations and I'm also doing monthly journal posts. So you'll see some interactions and maybe there'll be some good prompts for you to work through and, you know, use this experience. So I'll work on, putting together some responses to help you look into yourself and really figure out, how to break some cycles in your life and some of those activities that you can do.
But it comes down to the fact too, is that are you willing to make that change?
Yes, 100%.
Like, and if you aren't willing to sit down and work on yourself, then what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
If you want to break the cycle and you want to break that, it needs to start with you.
Yep.
And it comes back to that ripple effect, because you start breaking the cycle, someone else will.
Mm-hmm.
Then someone else will. You have to be strong. You have to set those boundaries and you have to stick to it.
Yep.
I have a hard time sticking to most things because let's go to a diet, for example. I have a hard time changing my habits, even though I want to lose the weight.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to set those boundaries that I can't lay in bed and eat 20 Twinkies.
Yeah.
No, I can't do that. So therefore, it's like you meal prep, you take the time, you do that. And I think it comes back to your life, you know, taking the time, work on yourself. For hell, take a break from dating, go to therapy, you know. And I'm speaking from personal experience because I had to do that. My life fell apart at 19.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what the fuck to do. And I didn't have a window or a pot to piss in and a window to throw it out of. So I was like, holy shit, what the? And so make the change, set your boundaries, stick to it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You got to figure out who you are, or at least who you want to be. Look at some of the cycles that are coming up in your life and, really figure out, how to step forward and make that change. Emily mentioned, going to counseling, getting a mental health counselor. Obviously, I am totally pro that. I think that is awesome. And ultimately, it's everybody's own choice, right? You don't have to choose to listen to anything that we've said and like it. You can have your own view on it, but taking the moment to kind of look at things in your life that are triggers, and how people are behaving and acting to you and respecting your boundaries is a huge thing. And if they're not doing that, to kind of do a deeper dive into yourself and look at, maybe there's some trauma that you've had in your past, that you might need to revisit and really help yourself to grow from that. So
I agree. I 100% agree with you, Kendall.
Well, Emily, thank you for chatting with me.
Of course.
It's just we're just doing a super quick show and, just wanted to get this kicked off. So we're excited, for anyone that's coming to join us. Like I said before, please let us know if you have any topics that you want to discuss, um, or if you need any kind of like additional like information or support, reach out to us. We are looking for guests to come on our show and talk about different topics with us. So if you want to get connected, please go ahead and fill out the form below and get connected with us. Thank you, everyone, again, and make sure to like and follow us. Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Yeah.